Welcome to Across the Balkans. I'm Nafisa Latic. Great to have your company. Balkan countries have significantly ramped up their defense spending in recent years. They are buying advanced fighter jets, drones, helicopters and armored vehicles from various international suppliers. This surge in military investment marks a major shift as these states strengthen their defense capabilities amid lingering tensions. Serbia and Croatia are reintroducing mandatory military service. Some see this as a preparing for potential regional threats, while others view it as a way to deter conflict. While this renewed focus on defense has sparked mixed reactions, especially among young people. Katarina Petrovic reports.
For Alex Cetinje, a student in Belgrade, the reintroduction of mandatory military service isn't just another policy, it's a personal crossroads. Like many his age, he struggles with a future shaped by decisions made without his input in a country where this shift feels sudden and uncertain.
Sigurno da nam je bitno da svi mi imamo neku određenu sigurnost. Verujem da su ključno zapravo ta nejasna pitanja u celom problemu. To je da li je 75 dana dovoljno za našu obuku, da li ako nekada dođe do situacije da ćemo mi morati da iskoristimo ta znanja, da li ćemo mi imati dovoljno znanja uopšte, jer 75 dana za obučavanje u uslovima kada zapravo samo ratovanje se dosta oslanja na tehnologije razne i na primjer na dronove ili na različite rakete. Verujem da 75 dana neće biti dovoljno da nas nauči kako da zapravo primenimo neke veštine ako dođe do neke određene krize ili sukoba.
For young Serbians, mandatory service isn't just a brief training stint. It means joining a military that's stretched thin on resources and struggling to keep personnel. While the goal is to boost the numbers, there are real questions about whether this is a quick fix for deeper issues that need serious reform. President Aleksandar Vučić frames this as a vital step for Serbia's security, especially in a tense regional climate. His administration believes it will boost Serbia's defenses and act as a deterrent, though he emphasizes it's not intended to provoke.
It largely has to do with the poor internal state of the Serbian military, because the biggest problem of the Serbian military in recent years is the departure of professional military cadre from the military who go to private sector and who most of the time cite poor conditions, the lack of respect for the military profession from the political class, the lack of meritocratic culture, and so they sell their expertise to the private sector. But this has been one of the heavily kept secrets from the Serbian public.
Military analyst Vlada Radulović questions what drove the decision to lift the suspension of mandatory service.
Prvo od njih svakako je situacija na savremenom bojištu. I dalje vam treba živa sila koja može da se bori na frontu, koja može da čuva liniju fronta i koja može da napreduje u dubinu teritorije. Naravno, na to dodate i činjenicu koja se zove nešto što bismo možda mogli da definišemo kao politički populizam, odnosno pogodnost eksploatacije te teme koja de facto jeste ocenjena kao neka prilično prijamčiva tema našem javnom mnjenju, onda zapravo dobijate tu celokupnu sliku i konkretan odgovor zašto sada ulazimo u priču odmrzavanja obaveznog služenja vojnog roka.
In recent years, Serbia has been shopping for new weaponry and modernizing its military equipment, replacing outdated Yugoslav-era gear with acquisitions from Russia, France and China. But there is a major gap in sufficiently trained personnel to operate this new equipment.
On surface, it appears to be a desire to make Serbia into 21st century military, but when you scratch below the surface, there is much more of political marketing and internal corruption and mismanagement.
Many Serbians are asking whether all this preparation hints at the possibility of conflict.
These countries are demographically hemorrhaging, so they don't have enough troops, nor do they have the industrial capacity for prolonged warfare. So the capacity of these societies to engage in warfare is quite limited. So the prospect of full-fledged war is highly likely, even though one cannot fully eliminate the possibility of a more localized, politically motivated violence in places like North Kosovo, or perhaps some political skirmishes between constituent ethno-religious groups in Bosnia.
I was curious, can 75 days really prepare young Serbians for modern warfare? After all, the lifestyle of today's Generation Z is a world away from traditional military culture.
Da li bi bilo korisno po nas i po državu i po same odbrambene kapacitete zemlje, iskreno sumnjam, ali da bi bilo nešto vredno iskusiti i kroz to proći sigurno da.
Even though some officials mention mid-next year, the path forward is still unclear. For Alex and others like him, concerns remain about whether this will strengthen defense or involve a generation in decisions they didn't shape. Katarina Petrović, Across the Balkans, Belgrade.
Let's bring in Mehmedin Tahirović from Podgorica. He is a former national military representative of Montenegro at NATO, and Daniel Sunter from Belgrade. He is the founder of the Balkan Security Network and has been leading a Euro-Atlantic initiative focusing on NATO, defense and security since 2005. Mr. Tahirović, let me come to you first. What do you think is behind Serbia and Croatia's decision to reintroduce military service? And can we expect more countries in the Balkans to do the same?
Yes, it's true that in the last time, the process of increasing the military weapons and equipment in Serbia and especially Croatia are on the highest level in the last 5 years. For example, Serbia invested in the sector of defense for the last 5 years more than 35% in the defense sector on the previous time. Especially it is the problem because, as we know that Serbia, Croatia and Albania are the main players on the Western Balkans. In this case, the question is why they are increasing the weapons and equipment, and what is the reason? I think that the key reason is unsuccessful reconciliation after the war, 1995, from 1991 in former Yugoslavia, and against back the nationalist politicians on the key position in the states, in Croatia and Serbia also. In this case, we have the situation that they have support from Russia and China, even that especially Serbia is the candidate and in the process of negotiation in European Union. But they are a majority of weapons and equipments providing from China and from Russia. It is very strange. Why is a key question. I think that is something depending on the situation in an international scene and the key players in international sense.
Right.
In this
let me go to
the
right.
of the United States, NATO, European Union, and the other big countries, China especially, it will be probably to try to widening the territory against the damage on the Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro and North Macedonia.
Right. Let me cross to Belgrade. Daniel, you've heard what Mr. Tahirovic thinks about this, but I do want to ask you about mandatory military service. We've seen that story about young Serbians just before this panel, and some of them say they are not sure that 75 days of service is enough for them to be able to use some of this advanced modern equipment that Belgrade is purchasing. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'd like to start by addressing a major shift in Europe's perception of warfare and military needs. Shift largely driven by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So European defense strategies were prioritizing smaller, highly professional forces for peacekeeping and coalition missions in the past. But the harsh reality of conventional warfare in Ukraine has changed that approach fundamentally. Europe is now moving swiftly to rebuild its industrial defense base and prepare armed forces capable of high-intensity conventional conflicts. So these kind of discussions are taking place all over Europe, including Germany, United Kingdom, etc. There is a growing realization across NATO that professional volunteer force alone may not be sufficient in the face of renewed security challenges, especially threat from the East. Turning to Serbia, it's important to note that since 2011, Serbia transitioned to an all-volunteer military force. However, this shift brought its own challenges, including a shortage of active reserve forces and general lack of public interest in long-term military roles. For several years now, Serbia has been exploring ways to address these gaps. So, answering to your question on how the young soldiers might use the new equipment, probably they're not going to use that kind of equipment because Serbia is now aiming, as Croatia is aiming to a hybrid model that would combine professional force with the conscripts. And professionals would handle, I would say, the highly sophisticated equipment that is currently being used or bought by Croatia or by Serbia. The other question is, so Serbia decided to have a conscript service that will last for 75 days. Croatia's option is 60 days. So the question is, can you really train young people in 60 or 75 days to be a soldier? Well, for some basic handling of rifles, etc., probably it is. But to use more sophisticated equipment, definitely not. But this is not only the technical military question, but also the political question, because the governments and the policymakers are always thinking about PR aspect. How many days, weeks, or months would be acceptable for public nowadays to be part of the armed forces? So obviously, both Zagreb and Belgrade believe that these 2 or 2.5 months would be enough to bring them into the armed forces without causing tensions in the society.
Right. Mr. Tahirovic, from NATO perspective, what are the potential security risks posed by the increased militarization of the Balkans?
As you know, on the new NATO strategic concept and 2 last declarations on the NATO summits in Madrid and in Washington, D.C., NATO underlined that is Black Sea region and the Balkan region are the most important for the security of Europe. But behavior of NATO is not same toward Black Sea and the Balkans. We have the situation that on the Black Sea is covered by armed forces all territory toward Russia, but not in the Balkans. We have only the EUFOR in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we have the experience with the Netherlands battalion in Srebrenica 1995 there. NATO Center for Education in Butmir in Sarajevo, KFOR in Kosovo, around 5,000 soldiers. In Albania, we have in the process of building the biggest navy center on the Mediterranean in Durrës of the site of NATO, but nothing in North Macedonia, nothing in Montenegro. The question is why? Where is the Southeast Europe brigade? The financing budget for the 2004 for this brigade decreased from 3,080 euros, not 3,380,000, on 280,000 euros. This initiative moved from 15 years ago, and key role this brigade is to dealing preventive. But why not in action this brigade? Now, if we have the perception from NATO that Western Balkan is very dangerous area.
Daniel, let me come to you now. Serbia obviously against joining the NATO alliance, but extremely focused on developing its military arsenal. Why do you think Belgrade is doing this? And do you agree with Mr. Tahirovic that there are fears that we could see some tensions in the Balkans in the near future?
I agree strongly with Mr. Tahirovic's assessment that let's say the outcome of the conflicts in 1990s and lack of proper reconciliation are steering all these tensions and questions what kind of consequences we might face in the future. But that's the one question. When it comes to the political realities, Serbia's modernization of armed forces is just part of the broader trend that is happening throughout the region, in Hungary, in Romania, in Croatia. And by analyzing the structure of modernization of Serbian armed forces, there is a strong connection to the West, to the European Union, and to the United States. For example, the largest procurement ever made by Serbia when it comes to defense modernization are Rafale combat aircrafts, and these planes are made in France. The contract, the value of the contract is 2.7 billion euros. President Macron was recently in Belgrade, and the whole arrangement obviously has the green light from the West. Serbia is also developing its own defense industrial capabilities. So Serbia is producing its own armored vehicles, rifles, ammunition, etc. And in this sense, also a connection with the Western industry is pretty strong. For example, all armored vehicles that are currently produced by Serbia are powered with American diesel engines. So I don't see modernization as such as a problem, because all the countries in the region are doing that.
And just briefly, Daniel, let me just jump in here because I don't have much time left, but I do want to ask you, as now we have this new U.S. administration that will handle the conflict in Ukraine, how much will that impact the situation in the Balkans as well when it comes to militarization and in general the security? I do want to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Well, this question was asked for so many times in the last 2 or 3 weeks in Serbia and probably throughout the region. And it's too early to say. But having in mind what happened during the first administration of President Trump, U.S. policy was more or less pretty consistent in the Balkans. And priorities are keeping Bosnia and Herzegovina safe and secure, keeping Kosovo safe and secure, and supporting dialogue of Belgrade and Pristina. And I don't see that this is going to change with the new U.S. administration.
And Mr. Tahirovic, I'll leave my last 1 minute to you. How concerning is for Montenegro having Serbia so modernly equipped when it comes to defense? What has been the reaction there?
Montenegro now has very deviation society on Serbian side and pro-Western side. And we don't have any security institutions, educational security institution in Montenegro. We don't have no one European center, only cybersecurity center, which was who was opened 1 month ago in Podgorica. It is not enough. The stabilization in Montenegro will be step-by-step increase in a future time. And NATO and European Union need to be more present in Montenegro if they are like to deterrence the situation on wars or situation or the war in this area.
Thank you both for being my guests on Across the Balkans. I appreciate your time. The relationship between Serbia and Montenegro has long been a source of tension. There have been deep historical, political and cultural divisions since Montenegro gained independence from Serbia back in 2006. Recently, the release of the video for the song Heart of Serbia has brought back these tensions into the spotlight. Shot across Montenegro with a focus on Cetinje, a city central to Montenegrin identity, the video features traditional Montenegrin symbols, and many saw the video as a provocation, accusing those behind it of misusing Montenegrin symbols to stir unrest. Mirjana Miladinovic reports from Cetinje.
Beautiful scenes of Montenegro, traditional Montenegrin costumes, the sound of the gusle, an instrument and a symbol of Montenegrin heroism, and Cetinje as the emblem of Montenegrin identity, are all showcased in a controversial music video titled Heart of Serbia. The video was shot in Montenegro by the Serbian Ministry of Culture and Information, allegedly without permission from Montenegrin authorities. Cetinje's former mayor says this was an abuse of Montenegrin symbols.
Najkraće u pitanju je pokušaj provokacije i pokušaj dodatnih tenzija u društvu. Cetinje je simbol istorijskog trajanja Crne Gore. Za Cetinje je vezana ta srž crnogorskog nacionalnog identiteta. I Cetinje je uvijek nekako pogodno tle, ili mogu slobodno reći najpodesnije za određeni vid aktivnosti koje su bile usmjerene u ovom pravcu nekih provokacija. Zato što oni zapravo znaju šta Cetinje znači za Crnu Goru.
While the state did not respond, its citizens certainly did. And it's not the first time they've had to reject perceived attacks on their identity. In 2021, the enthronement of the head of the Serbian Orthodox Church in Cetinje ended in clashes, tear gas, unrest and arrests. Cetinje holds immense historical significance for Montenegrins, once serving as the seat of their kings and rulers. In recent history, it was pivotal in the restoration of the Montenegro's independence from Serbia in 2006. The key question is, what does Serbia aim to do now? I spoke to Cetinje residents about their feelings on the video.
To je definitivno Srbija. Ona ima interes da Crna Gora nazaduje. Njihova logika je sljedeća. Ako unište Cetinje, ovo je posljednji bastion slobode i crnogorstva u Crnoj Gori. Ako ovaj grad unište, oni su uništili Crnu Goru.
Srbija, definitivno. Od njih nas vas da jad bije, ne jad, nego svako božje crnilo. Kad svaka njihova rabota iza kulisna, krijući, ujutro u peći kerika kad svi spavaju, ili tako prerušeni. Na sreću našu, oni su prerušeni u našu robu, bili lijepu, umjesto da su došli sa njihovom nošnjom narodnom, koja je isto lijepa i trebaju da se ponose sa njom i da snime spot, ne bi ih sigurno niko dira.
Iskreno kažem, iz regiona svi. Svi žele da Crna Gora ide nazad. Kako Srbija, Hrvatska, svi.
Montenegro is perceived as a front-runner in the region when it comes to EU membership and is a NATO member.
They are trying, Serbia, and through Serbia, Russia, and pro-Russian forces, they are trying to have their puppet states inside European Union. You know, they partly succeed with the Orban government in Hungary, and they are now trying to have, I guess, the puppet states, NATO puppet state inside the alliance forces. And that's the huge danger for them, I guess, and I'm not sure that all allies forces in European Union and in the NATO can see that clearly. At this moment, I would not exclude that it's possible in the next period of time, not so far in the future, that we have some kind of incidents here.
The Balkans is known as the powder keg, and if the international community is not able to provide support for coexistence among different religions, it risks possible security challenges in the region. And with the conflicts and wars raging in Gaza and Ukraine, this is the last thing that anyone wants. Mirjana Miladinović, Across the Balkans, Cetinje, Montenegro.
That's it for this week. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.